I gotta get used to these new headphones.
Ooh, thank you for joining us on another week of Hard Talks with a Blonde and a Hippie. I'm your trippy hippie, Alicia, jumping on the mic from good old Utah, joined with my co-host,
Your favorite not blonde.
Woo! You guys are awesome.
I'm back, bitches.
Thank you for being here. We have a good episode today. I'm excited for it.
Well, really quick.
Yes.
So at that party that I was telling you about, my jewelry party, one of my instructors from hair school was there.
Oh.
And she was sitting there and she was touching my hair and she goes, "So, your podcast?" And I was like, "You listen to our podcast?" And she's like, "Yeah, I do." So shout out to you. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Boom. It's always my favorite thing. I've been out at like a club or like at raves.
A club.
Well, alleged to be more specifically on 25th Street a few times or at raves. And I've had people like come up to me. Shout outs to like Casey off the top of my head. She sees me and she's like, "Oh my God, hi." And I might have been a little inebriated. So I was like, "Oh my God, hi." And I felt bad because I didn't recognize this girl at all. And she's like, "Oh, we've never met before. I'm Casey."
You always feel bad for that because you're just like,
yeah. She's like, "I listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, shout outs. That
you're
is
like,
fucking
okay,
rad."
it wasn't me. You're like, I felt horrible for not knowing you because you knew me.
Like I forgot you.
But then it was like a reason you knew me and I didn't know you.
Now it's just so lovely to meet you. So thank you.
Right.
I'm going to throw in a disclaimer really quick. 101st episode. So I thought we should get a little one-on-one schooling on some old fucked up fables.
The Grimm. It's the Brothers Grimm. I keep calling it the Grimm Brothers, but it's the Brothers Grimm.
The Grimm.
It's the Brothers Grimm.
They are Grimm. So,
but
just a small disclaimer really quick. We do curse like sailors. I don't want to be responsible for your small innocent children saying fuck or goddamn because we know the fuckery be real. And a lot of these stories that we will be talking about come from like the Middle Ages. So life was a little harder back then. A mention of cannibalism and, attempted murder. So if you're not down for that, or if you are, just slide in on your own time. And what did you want to say?
That it like the Brothers Grimm, there was stories before them.
Yeah, it's all folklore.
So it's just like retelling, and then like Disney just like took it and was like, let's put a happy spin on it.
Well, and like it's not even that happy as we'll come to find out. But there's something about going over a story, one you've heard 1,000 times, especially the Disney adaptations.
But you just kind of feel like, I'm like, oh, Disney didn't invent these? And it's like, no.
Well, when you grow up with things, it's all you know. So when you come to find out that it's not the actual story, it's kind of like mind-boggling, right?
Yes.
And they're beloved tales. You know, we grew up with these. Even as 90s kids, the big princess movie for us was 94, The Little Mermaid.
Yes.
Love Little Mermaid.
It's a good show.
But now Disney's oldest movies, or their princess movies more specifically, have a growing scrutiny and controversy surrounding them, as is, even without the fucked up bullshit behind all of the origin. What with the misogyny and the idea that women need a man to be saved or be successful in life.
I know, that's why they're all like, oh, like, but like how it's funny how like everyone's like, oh, Frozen's like the first movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, did you forget about Brave came out before this? And it was like her and her mom. Did you forget about Mulan before this?
Mulan is like one of my favorites. She
like,
was the baddest bitch.
Let's be honest, people.
And next time we do one of these episodes, we should absolutely include Mulan because she was a real woman.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Like historically, like real bad bitch. Okay.
Did you watch the live version of that? I haven't.
I have, but it's very sad. I'm not gonna drop any spoiler alerts. The ending is devastating.
Of course it is. Is it like opening room for like a second one?
No, because everyone dies. I mean, it's based off of historical facts.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, they went to war with one of the craziest fucking genocidal maniacs in history.
Like, I'm glad Disney did that.
Fucking Han, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that guy ruled forever, and I believe he was Mongolian. But we're getting off.
Anyways,
base here.
Back to your story.
Disney has come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And some people say it did start with Frozen, but you can like see it, the difference in the plots and the storytelling, and it really is straying away from like a male influence or savior, if you will, blah blah blah. You've
or
heard
even
it.
just like watching them, like the animation has gotten better.
I know.
Like it's.
You see movies that were like your favorite as a kid, like,
And you were like, that was so damn, and you're like,
this
oh.
isn't a Disney movie, but I really liked that one movie. I think it's called Hoodwinked.
Okay,
About
yes.
like with Little Red Riding Hood, and I saw it as an adult not too long ago. I'm like, this looks like a so under budgeted, like cheap film. This looks like a garbage fire.
Oh my gosh, do you remember the it's the show about their like forest fairies, and they're cutting down trees, and the dude cutting down trees like somehow becomes small, and she has like short black hair.
Oh no,
no, not Thumbelina. She has like short black hair, and they're like, we gotta save the trees.
Is that the one?
I can only see parts of it in my brain, but I cannot think of the title.
And she gets turned into a small thing too, and their like queen dies. And like the rats are going to war with these fairies.
No, that's a different one. No, this one is like the people are like tearing down the trees.
I don't know.
Anyways, read your story. I'm gonna look up this title.
Well, I mean, storytelling began with the birth of humanity, so it's no wonder a lot of these were once brutal or still are, you know?
Mm-hmm.
As we know, it has become increasingly difficult to apparently come up with an original thought or idea. Have you been to the movie theaters lately?
No, well, we did like last year.
It's like the same 5 plots have been regurgitated so many times.
Well, that's the thing. We don't want to go because it's like there's no good movies out.
Well, I mean, how many Fast and Furious fucking movies can
10?
they make? Paul Walker? Paul Walker. Oh, I just wanted to make sure I was right there because it doesn't sound right for some reason. Beautiful man has been dead for how many years?
Since like
2011, something ridiculous like that. And then I saw Puss in Boots like 17 a few weeks ago with E. I swear to God. So it's no
Fern
surprise.
Gully, that's what it is. I found it.
Oh, dude.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
Like forever ago.
I
1992.
I hadn't seen Snow White since I watched it last night.
And I mean,
and that's what we're going to talk about today with
like,
Sleeping Beauty.
I feel like she was like one of the first princesses to come out because
She
that
was.
animation, dude,
Well, she was
like
the
intense.
first full-length animated feature film. And it was done by Walt Disney, and it was Snow White.
I mean, yeah,
So she is the original princess.
She was like young. I have all their ages.
She is the OG. Oh, I have them too.
Well, that in
Let's
that
see.
one, it's different than Disney's.
So we'll get to it. It's just no surprise to hear that most of these tales and nursery rhymes that we've grown up with have stood the test of time.
Stood the test of time.
For real. And have been passed down by
honest.
word of mouth through many writings,
Maybe I don't have
translations, and different adaptations over the generations or centuries even. Some dating back to the Middle Ages, like I said. And a lot of these stories were crafted and used as scaring tactics for children, typically using mischief, magic, witchcraft, and the ever so common mention of cannibalism. You know, it's fine.
I like in The Little Mermaid, we'll get to that in another episode, how he's like, they use these stories to make sure the kids aren't assholes.
Well, and that's literally like a question I jotted down. I was like, is this really just to keep your kids from misbehaving or wandering into the woods? Like,
yeah, because remember like with Krampus and stuff?
Yeah.
Like they have Krampus to be like, oh, he's going to come eat you.
But then like you got to keep that in mind, like when these stories originated. And so it's like, okay, like they were worried about rape and murder and slavery and disease.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Whatever.
While these infamous stories and movies that have captivated us for generations that we could retell in our sleep, you know you could. It's always fun to hear the real versions. Some of us might not even recognize. Versions that are so grim they might even give you nightmares. And I bring this up because we mentioned Anastasia way back in our Chernobyl episode. I think it was 87, and it got us snowballing because I know you've done some research and it's I don't know.
You know, it's funny because I just watched that movie too.
Yeah. I know your favorite is Sleeping Beauty, and I know you know that story really well.
Love Aurora.
So I actually kind of wanted you to tell the story of
yeah.
Sleeping Beauty.
I can do that.
Maybe you could start with the Disney version.
Yes, I can.
And then the real fucked up origin
All right.
story. So take it away.
Oh, right now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So in the Disney version, I don't really explain movies very well, but we're going to try. So in the Disney version, it's like this king and queen, like, have tried forever to have a baby. They finally have a beautiful little baby girl, and they invited all of the fairies. And a lot of people don't know this, but Maleficent was a fairy. I like her movie. We got to talk about her movie, too, how, like...
Maleficent.
Yeah, because it was like how she was like
Love
a good
Angelina
fairy.
Jolie. Yeah.
And then it was like the king stole her wings.
It reminds me of
and
the
that's why
devil.
She's, like, mean.
Because the devil was an angel.
Yeah.
He was God's favorite angel. But
Yeah.
he was naughty.
So he cut his own wing, but he cut
fell
his own
from heaven.
wings.
Mm-hmm.
But Maleficent, she got her wings cut off by the king.
Damn, dude, I never recognized how, like, similar that correlation is until this moment.
What?
Between the devil and Maleficent.
That makes hey, well, she wears horns.
Wow.
And she has Lucifer had white wings in the show Lucifer.
I still haven't seen that. Everybody,
It's a pretty good show.
yeah. So just for everyone's knowledge, Disney's rendition of The Sleeping Beauty came out in 1959. So
Yeah, so she's like old.
So housewife status. Think of that. We're still in that era.
Well, they're still like, like they're just whatever. So the three good fairies, blue, green, and pink, right? Yeah, the three fairies come. And so they're giving her their gift. So she's like, I give her the gift of beauty. I give her the gift of like singing or whatever. And before the blue fairy can get up there, Maleficent comes storming in and is like, I curse her to die.
Little princess, my gift shall be the gift of beauty.
Because wasn't it because she was... I think in the Disney version, it was because she wasn't invited to the baby shower. It was like some very light and fluffy reason.
She was like, I wasn't invited, so I'm going to like curse your child to
Yeah,
die.
fuck you, King.
Prince,
Whatever.
whatever his name is. Don't even know her parents' name. No one knows their parents' names. We all know Princess Aurora and Prince Philippe.
It's because I feel like in every Disney movie, they don't have parents.
No.
I guess in... like in this case with Aurora, she does have parents, but she's not raised by her parents.
No.
But sorry, I'm getting ahead of you.
Yes. So the blue fairy comes up and he's like, can you reverse that? And he's like, she's like, I can't reverse it, but I can change it. So she's like, it's instead of like death sentence, it's like you will fall into a deep sleep. Mm-hmm. So then the queen and king freak out. So the fairies take Aurora and they name her Rose in a sense up until she's like 16.
Briar Rose.
Yeah, Briar Rose.
And Maleficent's curse was she would prick her finger on a spinning wheel
And die
on her 16th birthday. So that's why the
Yes.
king and queen decided to have every
spindle.
Is it a spinning wheel or
It's like
spindle
it's
wheel?
it's like a thread thing.
Yeah, you know what? You guys know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they burnt them all in the entire kingdom, and then they basically sent their baby daughter, infant daughter.
Like
okay,
they
think
just
about
had
this.
her, and they've been
She's
wanting
a
her.
little baby with these 3 fucking fairies, and yes, the blue fairy changes it to
A curse where she just pricks her fingers and falls into a deep sleep.
Instead
But
of
also
dying.
she does it to where the whole kingdom
will fall asleep.
will fall asleep too,
Yes,
so they
yes.
don't know. So then she
Everything's
grows
on
up.
pause.
Yeah, so everything is kind of like they're like if she falls asleep, then everybody else falls asleep, and then it's just kind of like.
Yes.
So then she gets older. She sees the prince, like she's out with their animals, and then like the fairies are sitting there arguing about what color the dress should be. So their magic comes up through the little chimney, and the little crow sees it, and he like goes and tells Maleficent, and she sees
Fucking
him.
Raven guy.
Yeah, the little raven.
Her
So
little henchman.
her little henchman, ravens, man. Those things are massive.
Oh, you know what, dude? Like, when I was really, really little, I was really scared of her henchmen, man. They're like goblins and ghoul-looking
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah.
They're like her poopsies.
That's what Ursula calls her
What
fucking
is she
eels.
calls them something and poopsies.
Oh, my poopsies.
She calls
oh,
them
my
something and then poopsies.
poopsie. You're my poopsie.
She's like my little
poopsie.
poopsies.
Oh.
But so then Maleficent like lures her into this like abandoned castle basically. Mm-hmm. She pricks her finger and she like falls asleep and the fairies are like, "Blah!" And so again the blue fairy was like, only a true love's kiss can wake her up. So then they're like, go find the prince. So they're going to find Prince Philippe and
Did they go and find the prince or did they just meet each other by accident in the forest?
I think they went to find him because I remember them rushing off to get him. And then he comes on his white horse back and then he like, but Maleficent has like her like vines up and so he's like breaking them down.
I'm thinking of the epic like love song that they sing to each other in the forest when they first meet.
Oh, like
when she's still in hiding.
Yeah.
And that, because I always forget. Because
she's dancing with the animals like the owl is wearing his cape.
Yes.
And it's like, I met you in a dream.
Because it wouldn't be a Disney movie
I met you once upon a dream.
Dance choreograph.
Without bunnies in your shoes.
Yeah.
And an owl being the prince.
Oh, yeah. But so that's important because I always forget when I retell the story that they met before she fell into the sleep. Because I was always like, he's such a weird guy. He just kisses a girl who's asleep. Well, and which is a common denominator in a lot of these fucking stories.
Let's be honest about the original. But it's because, like, if you hear this song, it's like I've met you in a dream before.
Yeah, but
so it was like weird how they're like, but I knew you.
Maybe she subconsciously remembered him because in Disney's version, Prince Philip is at the baby shower or the christening.
He gives her a rattle
in the very beginning because even when she's born, she's already betrothed to Prince Philip.
Yes,
and so
because like it turns out like when she's 16 when she dies when she goes to sleep, but he's like 20.
Yeah, like he's already.
He's like a 7. He looks like a 7-year-old.
I was thinking the same thing
like
in the first scenes. Yeah,
and he's like, ugh. I want to marry her, or
she's a baby.
No, that and also that's how it is in this the Swan Lake movie.
You're right,
but they kind of grow up together.
Talk about regurgitating the same idea. Disney's done it like a million times with their own movies.
But I don't think Swan Lake is a Disney movie. Because she's not part of the...
I don't think it is either.
Because she's not part of the princesses.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
So it's like they actually kind of like grew up together.
Interesting.
In Swan Lake.
But anyways. Still.
So she falls asleep, blah, blah, blah. He defeats Maleficent, her. And so then he runs up and he kisses her and she just like they have like a close up of her face and she just opens her
eyes. It's a beautiful close up too. She has
bright
red lips and perfect blonde curls.
I don't think she was asleep for very long, to be honest.
I love how in Disney movies too, or any fairy tale, there's no lapse of time. It's just like a subsequent.
She died, she fell asleep, and like the prince came, and then she woke up.
How long was this? Happening of events.
Yeah, it was like all within like 2 days. Who knows at this point? It's been like 2 days.
It really is, though.
It's like a movie.
That's a lot to pack in a whole day.
That's a lot for the poor person.
And it's usually like in the daytime. So like, what do they do at night?
Right?
I mean, they are busy.
So she wakes up, the curse is lifted, and then it kind of goes through and like the fairies wake up everybody else. And then they celebrate, and then her and Prince Philip get married.
The end.
The end.
Happily ever after.
The Disney version.
Love that. So a couple fun Sleeping Beauty Disney movie facts, just really quick. Aurora was voiced by Mary Costa, who's also an opera singer.
I wonder why her voice was so beautiful.
Oh, they all are.
They really are.
She would...
Are they fun facts?
Helene Stanley was the inspiration for the look of Aurora. I don't know who that is. Yeah, versions of Sleeping Beauty that she's about to tell were published by both Charles Perrault, a French author. I remember that from the research I did last time.
There's been like a lot of like redone.
Oh, so many renditions of the Sleeping Beauty. I would say at least 20, 25.
I mean, who knows at this point?
Like when I did the original research, because I will say this, we tried to record this episode some months ago, and I was just having an off day, and I wanted to give it the justice that it so deserved. It was a rabbit hole, especially for that story, because it has been republished and reauthored by so many different writers. So a little crazy. But mainly Charles Perrault and Brothers Grimm have the most substantial claim to the origin stories. Prince Philip is said to have been named after another royal that Americans would have been familiar with during that time period. Duke of Edinburgh, husband of Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Instead of 3 quirky fairies, the original version included 7.
7.
It's
a lot.
One more. When the fairies discuss how to help the king and queen early on in the film, Merryweather makes cookies in the shapes of a classic Mickey Mouse head. So they have a hidden Mickey in there.
Of course they do.
Of course they do. Okay, that was fun. Well, slam down this real life version. I want to fucking hear it.
The Brothers Grimm version is just that. Grimm.
Yes.
So her name is Talia in this story. Mm-hmm. And she is born to a prince, obviously, but she's not cursed. She doesn't get a curse by like a wicked witch or anything.
Right.
So she's just going about her business. She's like, what, 16 in this one? Mm-hmm. Is she 16?
14 or 15.
14, between 14 to like 16 in this one. So there is this like spinster, and she's just like enamored by her. She's like, oh my gosh, like what? She's like making flax. Like she has flax and she's like turning it into wool. She's like, oh my gosh, like that is the coolest thing ever.
How do you do that?
I know. Right? She's like, show me how to be a spinstress. So, well, she touches the flax.
And it somehow turns into a splinter and gets
Yeah.
shoved up her fucking...
So,
like a bamboo fucking...
Yeah, like in her
like
fingernail,
Vietnam War torture status.
So, like, it shoved up her finger. Well, apparently, if you get a flax in your finger, it makes you pass out.
Probably, in like...
Or
if
like
this
go
was
unconscious.
real life, it probably turns septic.
Oh, I'm sure
And
it did.
especially with the time and age, because the origin of Sleeping Beauty dates back to the fucking Middle Ages.
Like 1800,
okay?
yeah.
Like, no, way before
Like-
the 1800s, like 1500s.
Okay, yeah.
Way
She would have
old.
just died at this point.
And I didn't deep dive as much as I did on this one, as I did for Snow White, and you'll see. But, yeah. I don't know where I was going.
I don't know
with
where
it.
you're
I
going
lost
with
my
that
train
either.
of thought. But like she probably just got fucking sick.
Well, yeah, it's the Brothers Grimm story, so they can do whatever they want.
But it was a folklore before it was ever published. So a lot of the story about the beautiful fallen princess that slept for 100 years was passed down by word of mouth for at least 100 years before it was ever published on paper.
So it was just kind of like a story that just kind of kept getting like twisted into
Telephone game.
Yeah, because then at this
Telephone
point, like who
game.
knows what really happened? Poor
For
thing.
real. Especially if it was loosely based off of someone's real life, like Snow White.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that is true.
I'm done interjecting.
So,
For now.
My God, she gets a little sliver in her finger and it makes her pass out. And they're like, oh my gosh. So the king has all the little spindle. He doesn't have them. Does he do anything with them?
He has them destroyed.
He has them destroyed.
He has them destroyed. But then, like, in that version, he's so heartbroken.
Yeah, that he just like leaves the castle.
Yeah,
like he just leaves her in a bedroom and just like
That's
leaves.
her tomb.
He's like, see you later.
That's her crypt.
Because I remember like it's been years too. So he just left her there. He left. He was like, peace out. Like, I just can't handle being like, you're just like my only daughter and like you died.
Yeah.
So then
So the whole kingdom basically moves on.
yeah,
It's
so they're
kind of
like
strange.
there's just like nothing there. So this prince comes riding in and he's like, oh, there's this castle. Like, I'm gonna see if anybody's there. It doesn't look like it.
I think
so-
he was on a hunting trip, so he's like,
Yeah.
I must stay here.
So he's like, tired. So he's like, oh, there's a castle. Let me just break in. And he's like, oh, there's nobody here. And then he goes up to her room and he's like, oh, wait, there's this beautiful lady laying here. And what does he do? Of course,
I was
what
looking
any
for
man
a
would
goose
do.
feather bed, and I found something else to relax me. Let me kick off my boots.
Honestly. So he was just so enamored about her beauty that he decided to make love to her.
It wasn't just his boots that he kicked off, you guys. Nay, nay.
Nay, nay. He ends up, okay, so he was like, oh, it was a wonderful night with her.
But Sarah, let's call it what it was.
Rape.
He raped an unconscious woman.
Who was underage by...
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 back then was childbearing years.
I mean,
prime time.
They were probably like, why aren't you married?
But she'd been like in this deep sleep for years, like Sarah
we don't
said.
know, because like the castle was like...
They said that it was
dirt,
enough
like,
time for the trees to be overgrown, and all the vines to be grown onto
like
the castle.
The castle was kind of like breaking down, so he was like, oh, nobody's here.
At least like
sometime.
Yeah,
A long time, like,
I can only imagine like the upkeep that was going on.
Girl,
does
I
her
don't even
hair
know.
continue to grow?
Well, yeah, she's alive.
Her nails, like,
Dude.
think of that. That's
nasty.
That is a middle-aged bush beyond 70s. We go middle-aged. Ooh,
not even that. I mean, I think even then they took a little bit of like hygiene care.
No,
They had a walk.
I think they had like rose water and like.
Could you imagine like her hair and her pubic hair just like growing? As
I mean,
one?
just walking is like interlacing fingers.
So you just had to like kind of like.
Well, I mean, and that was chamber pots, and like they only had like water basins. They didn't take baths maybe like more than once a year, unless they went to a bathhouse. If you were
you had to and
rich.
it cost some money.
Yeah, and so like I think they would just like put a lot of different oils and fragrances in their hair.
Nasty.
But all men were disgusting, and think of the STDs that must have been.
No wonder why the age limit was like 25.
That actually makes
no
me
wonder why you
think-
had to get married so young is because you died young.
Well, you would die young, probably from dysentery, where you shit your brains out to death in the fucking field there by the cow.
Because you like drink the dirty water that you're not supposed to drink.
Yeah, or you don't wash your hands and you're eating with your poo-poo fingers. But
yeah, poop. You don't have toilet paper, so you're just wiping with your hand anyways.
Or
And you just wipe it off in the grass.
A fucking leaf, man.
Ew.
But like, imagine
they're like leaves. What's a leaf?
I've never thought of it in that way, because like
That's nasty.
it makes me wonder if STDs or STIs are like a new age disease, because you never hear about someone dying from chlamydia back
but they didn't know they had that.
I guess you're right,
because like they knew they had like the plague.
Yeah, they're worried about like
they're
other
worried
shit.
about like they're like you got chlamydia.
And if they didn't know if it was an STD,
you got the clap.
they're just gonna categorize it as some
weird ass
polio
shit you got in your vagina. They're like, oh, genital warts. You also got warts on your face.
Fucking TB.
Like you're right. They're like, you got the plague. You need to go like quarantine yourself and die in a hole.
Oh, sorry.
So he not only does he, make love to her, as he would say, he also left her with a wonderful gift. 2 babies. Not 1, 2.
His sperm was strong with this
I mean,
one.
was it one time though? Let's be honest.
But like, was it only one rape, or did he like?
We don't know. Like, didn't he stay the night because he was tired?
I hope she didn't remember that when she woke up. I don't think
she did. No. So he goes back home to his wife. Mind you, he's married.
Shocker.
Okay? So he goes back to his wife, and he cannot get Talia out of his mind. He's like, I just love her. She's beautiful. Obviously she's unconscious, right? Mm-hmm. Well, 9 months go by. Little lady Talia, she is so lucky these fairies just happen to be passing by. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, she's giving birth. So she births
these 7 fucking
babies.
fairies.
Yeah, these fairies come and help her birth these babies. And they're like, here, let's nurse them. So they put the babies up to nurse. Well, one of them can't latch very well, so he finds her finger.
Yes, I forgot about that.
The piece of flax that's in her finger. The
bamboo fucking sliver.
That's underneath her fingernail.
That septic, nasty fucking sliver.
She, wakes up and she's like, oh my gosh, I have babies. So she names them Sun and Moon. Well, she's just so excited.
Sun, Moon, and Talia.
Sun, Moon, and this is the story. It's called Sun, Moon, and Talia by the Grimm brothers.
We should have led with that.
Yeah, right. Well, I did.
Okay.
I think so. If not, I'm leading with it now. So the prince is just like, I need to go see her. So he goes and sees her, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're awake, and you have twins, my babies. So then he goes home, And he's
must
like,
have
no,
been a real confident narcissistic fucker to be like, these are definitely my chitlins.
Well, obviously, because no one else knew she was there.
How does he know? Maybe someone else stopped by.
But maybe he kept going there so often. We don't know. So, like, well, he stayed with her for, like, ever. And he was like, they, like, kind of fell in love. He was like, oh, my gosh, like, our kids, like, let's be together. So he goes home and he tells his wife, he's like, yeah, I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be with Talia, my children. Well, she's fucking pissed.
Yeah, she don't like that.
So she makes like a little note from the king, and she's like, Talia.
Oh, yeah, because he brings her back to the kingdom already with the kids.
So she does. He doesn't yet. He was going to, but he's going to kick his wife out first. So she's like, come be here. We want to, like, have whatever. So she's like, all right. So she brings the babies. And the queen instructed the cook to steal the babies, chop them up, and cook them and serve them to the king. Well, the good cook over here, he's like, yeah, I ain't doing that. Like, shocking. Are you kidding me?
More cannibalism.
But he does. He does take the babies. Like, he's like, all right, I'll just, like, make a ruse. Like, we'll take them, put them somewhere safe. Like, he gives them to his wife or something. And he makes, like, a baby lamb. So he makes, like, lamb soup, right? And so the queen's just sitting there, and he's just, like, eating his soup. And he's like, this is some good shit. And she's like, yeah, you're eating your babies. And he, like, goes, like, freaks out. And he's like, what? And then the little, like, cook comes out, and he's like, no, I didn't let her do it. Couldn't do it because I was the one in on it. I just saved her babies. And he's like, yeah, he didn't. Doesn't he kill the wife? I can't remember.
He had her burnt to the stake, didn't he?
Yes, he had her die. So he killed her. And then him, Sun, Moon, and Talia lived happily ever after. In his castle after he, you know. Well, I mean, she doesn't know any different. She was like, what, 14 when she died, like, you know, became unconscious. And that was like, how long? Years of shit, so.
Yeah, it's not good. Sorry,
So she doesn't know any different?
I was just looking at the first edition publishing date of Sleeping Beauty by the Grimm's brothers was 1812, and then they were inspired by Perrault's narrative, which was first published in 2 parts in the late 1700s. Yeah.
And then in Cinderella, the sisters, they cut her parts of their feet off to fit into the shoe, but the blood gives them away.
Their heels.
And then their eyes are pecked out by birds. It's a good way to die.
That's instant karma, yo.
All right, go on with Snow White.
Yeah, so that is as fucked up as that is. Like, I'm glad that the king...
I mean, like she didn't know any different. She's like,
didn't eat his own children, and then they went on to live happily ever after. Actually, in the end of that, so that's good. There is always a silver lining, even in the Grimm's version. So
it is like it's like very grim to get there, but they're like, you went through hell and back. You deserve a happy ending.
Yeah. So now listening to Disney's adaptation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs versus
I like how you write your shit down. I have to go from memory, people. Fucking memory.
Next time.
Well, I don't know. You just write so good. I'm over here like,
But it's helpful because
I forget parts, but I have you to help me remember the parts.
It's true.
So
it's true.
fine.
You did a very good job.
Thank you.
Poor motherfucking Aurora / Briar Rose. I can't talk. Aurora / Briar Rose / Talia.
If I was having another girl and chased like the name Briar, I probably would name her Briar Rose.
I do like that. That is cute. I also like Aurora.
I love Aurora. She's like my favorite princess.
Oh. Mine is forever Ariel, and I would have to go with Mulan, I think. She's a bad bitch. I also like Tatiana from Princess and the Frog. But as you listen to this, definitely like...
And see, she does her shit on her own. She's like carrying the prince on her back. She's like, get your... Like, what are you doing?
She was like one of the first, for sure. Nobody like mentions Tatiana at all. They still got to stick up their ass about her being black or something, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
But then like they have like the Little Mermaid, and it's like, really, people get up.
Well, and now that they've cast... black woman
Halle
as
Berry.
Ariel, people are freaking the fuck out. And
no,
I'm like,
it's Haley.
Are you goddamn serious? Like, we don't have enough shit to worry about. You're worried about this. Like,
well, I'm glad they did that because then it shows like the little girls in the world like you can be anything you want to be.
Exactly.
Is it? I think It's Haley.
And it's
Haley.
so empowering to
Not
the
Hallie.
young black women of the next generation. I mean, seriously.
For sure. I'm like,
how
why?
beautiful is that?
We don't.
I absolutely adore
I'm just
it.
excited that they made a live version of it. I don't care who's playing in it.
And we'll actually talk about the origin stories, etc. of The Little Mermaid the closer it gets to the release date of.
Isn't it May 24th?
I think it's sometime in May.
May,
So
so.
we'll do another fucked up fable episode covering Little Mermaid.
That one's pretty good too.
Probably end of April.
The one that I listened to is pretty good.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was in the same one.
But
Go on.
So Disney's adaptation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs versus the loosely translated Grimm's Snowdrop.
I know. I heard that. I was like, poor drop.
Yeah. So diving into
When was it? When did it come out?
1937.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
she was like before Aurora.
Yeah.
So
So
we talked about that. She was like one of the first. She was the first princess.
she was the first princess. So I'll do Disney's adaptation and then the Grimm's version afterwards. So the movie,
like, fresh in your mind.
yes. The movie begins with Snow White dancing and singing amongst cute little forest animals, just like Aurora. You know,
Aurora.
I mean, she wouldn't be a Disney princess if she didn't know how to talk to animals.
In the first one of Sleeping Beauty, it's like they have like the pages flipping.
They all
Once
start with a
upon
storybook.
time.
I think Snow White is exactly the same. It starts with a fucking storybook.
Yeah, it's like Once
opening.
Upon a Time. Yeah, that's how they start. Get it right.
That's where there's so many parodies and spoofs on it, like Shrek. They're like, you know,
Once Upon Shrek.
because it's been so overdone. And
I don't know if I like that movie. But Chase loves it.
I love Shrek.
I don't know if I like it.
I love Shrek. And the first one, like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
What? I have to take care of my ass. There's so much adult innuendo in there. It's great.
Talking.
When's the last time you saw that?
A couple years ago.
Oh, it's so funny. Like, the older I always catch something new. I'm like, oh, fucking A. But anyways.
Fucking Disney, man. They do that a lot now.
Snow White's hair is as black as coal. Her skin is white as snow and lips red as roses.
Could you imagine? Like, why are you so pale?
Like,
you okay?
But
you
like,
dead?
I guess that, level 10 material. That's apparently what we're talking here.
They wanted her to be white.
Again, they sure
You're like,
fucking did.
You're not white. You're white.
Now that you say that, it makes sense because fuck. This is in the very beginning of Disney's version, so we don't have any real backstory on Snow White. It literally starts with the singing number. She's most likely 16 in this version, and we don't know how Snow White came
She's 14.
in the movie, in Disney's version.
Let me find it. Keep talking and I'll get it.
Anyways, we don't know like how she came to be in this precarious position as far as like living with her mother or stepmother in this version. What happened to her dad? Where's her mom? Why is every Disney character an orphan again?
Oh, yeah, she's 14.
Okay, 14 in this.
And then, did you know it's Prince Florian? That's her prince's name.
He does have a name?
He does. I just thought it was Prince, but it's Prince Florian. Cinderella's Prince Harry.
I didn't think he had a fucking name, to be so honest with you.
Neither did I. I just thought it was Prince, but it's Prince Florian. And he's 17 to 18.
Interesting.
Come on.
Cut frame to our extremely evil and insecure stepmother, the queen. She's talking to her magic mirror, as one does. She needs a bit of an ego boost. And as...
I like her, like, outfit.
Yeah.
She has, like, Maleficent going on.
She has style. She asks her magic mirror, who is the fairest in all the land? The magic mirror responds, but makes a major mistake, saying Miss Snow White was the fairest in all the land. And
is. Not was, is.
It is, yeah, presently. And that really pissed off the stepmother evil queen because her cheese slid up her cracker.
She always had, like, crazy eyes.
She wasn't going to let it slide. So that's when the queen comes up with this really evil plot to have Snow White stabbed in the dark woods by a huntsman that she hires. But luckily, this huntsman takes pity on her and thankfully doesn't follow through with the task.
She wanted the heart.
Wait, nope. You're getting ahead of me. This huntsman tells her to run away as far as she can, so she does. Snow White stumbles upon a sleepy, messy cottage and ends up falling asleep. That is not in the Disney version that you're talking about. Hold on. She wakes in a shock to 7 small men staring over her and thankfully learns they are happy kind, whistling while they work gold, silver mining dwarfs. She lives with them for some time until her evil stepmother learns from her fucking mirror again that she is still the fairest in all the land.
Mirror.
Yeah, whoops.
Shut up.
She's still alive. Shocker.
Like, yeah, Snow White, still the fairest. Excuse me.
So the queen decides to disguise herself as a scary cloaked old lady and brews up a poisonous apple to kill her with. Crazily enough, this actually works, and Snow White falls to her death, and the evil queen would have succeeded, almost did, until she got struck by lightning and was killed herself.
That happened in the movie?
Yes. Snaps.
When's the last time I watched the movie?
Snaps. The 7 dwarfs were so heartbroken they couldn't bear to bury her body, so they decided to keep the princess's body in a glass coffin where onlookers and woodland creatures alike could see her. Good to know that in this reality, bodies don't decay, because that would have been a scary sight. Then again, we don't know how much time passes in this version.
Because Disney, it could have been like a couple days.
Yeah, it was a day. Suddenly, a prince with zero identity stumbles upon her dead body.
Prince.
Yep, just
Prince.
Prince.
We know him as Prince.
He's just a prince with
Till today.
brown hair.
Prince
And
Florian.
similar to Sleeping Beauty, he pulls a necrophilic act and kisses her while she, air quotes, is dead. She then wakes up to find that she's surrounded by all these lovely beings and an overwhelmingly handsome prince, and you'll already know. I don't even remember if in the movie it shows this scene, but this stranger man prince, who's not rapey at all, proposes, and you guessed it, our little snowdrop eagerly accepts.
Yeah, they run off into the sunset.
And happily ever after. Eye rolls. We love it. We hate it. Very light and not so hearty.
Like the hi-ho, off to work we go.
We sure do. Even as a small child, I was left with all the fucking questions. Like,
Confusing.
I'm such a backstory person. Like, I always wondered why. Like, again, who is this guy that she's riding off into the sunset with?
Prince Florian.
Apparently. Is that really the end? Like, I always wanted more. And
We need like a follow-up.
yeah, what did I watch, basically?
I thought never did. I'm like, I need
I
a
just
follow-up.
watched? For real.
Like, what did our kids do? Like, what is there like evil in their kids' life? Like, come on, people.
For real. A couple of fun facts. The actress who was hired to play the voice of the original princess was Adriana Caselotti, a very promising and talented up-and-coming actress in the 30s. She was hired by the big man himself, Mr.
Naturally.
Walt Disney, but was sadly sort of blacklisted by Disney Industries, preventing her from getting many other acting roles because they so desperately wanted to maintain this clean and wholesome image of Snow White. So
No one would have known.
that would have sucked for
Poor
like
thing.
she literally wasn't allowed to work. It was kind of like
You're Snow
was
White. You're
baited
Snow
into-
White only.
she was baited into signing like some sort of contract, kind of like a DNR, like
A
within
DN, do you know what a DNR is? Do not
do not resuscitate, but it's also do not.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like you're not allowed to share any information.
Yeah,
that you
I know
learn.
exactly what you're talking about. What are those called? Yeah.
But in the sense that she wasn't allowed to like go and
Work.
work for any other.
Like once you become Snow White, you're stuck.
Yeah.
as
But I think it
Snow
was in the
White.
fine print, and she wasn't made aware of that, so that fucking
I could
sucked.
see it. Like her lawyers didn't look it over very well, or she was like, "I am my lawyer."
Also, this is the 30s, and many of the men who worked for the production company weren't very keen on the idea of hiring a female talent, which was crazy. Males voiced all the characters in movies up until this point, up until the release and creation of Snow White.
Damn.
It was men. So good old Walt said it needed to be a woman to bring her more to life, and thank
To
goodness
like
he...
really be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I want her to be.
We want her to be feminine.
can
We
be."
want her to be, she is the princess. And thank goodness he did, because Miss Castellotti, though she may have been understated and not gotten all the credit that she deserved, she paved the way for a lot of women in Hollywood. This movie took over 4 years to create. It cost a whopping $1.5 million
Good damn.
to create. It took over 250 animators to create. They hand drew each frame from start to finish.
That's a long project.
Yeah, this first feature film of its kind was deemed a commercial success, raking in international earnings of $8 million. And this is 1937.
Talk about paying people.
Yeah, what would that be today? $8 million in the 30s today.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Could you imagine
No.
what you could?
Yeah. So the American
Like
film,
back then, you were literally like you are a billionaire,
$20 in the 30s was like $100.
if not more.
Yes, especially after the Depression. So
that's what I'm saying. You would have what your millions were like billions at that point.
yeah, so you Google it, you do the math. They definitely made their money back. It was actually, so the American Film Institute ranked it among the 100 greatest American films in history and also named the film as the greatest American animated film of all time in 2008.
Damn.
So, although I think we can all agree Disney's rendition will forever go down as a classic in history, if you like your stories with a little more attempted murder, Grimm's version is the version for you, and it comes locked and loaded. Oh, one thing I will say too is Snow White also made huge revenue, like skyrocketing sales when they did their Disney home releases before like VHS tapes and DVDs were obsolete. So they got a kickback when they released it on tape and when they released
DVD
it on DVD.
because it was coming out of the vault.
Yes.
Get it before it
Yeah.
goes into the vault. People are like, "Rah!"
I mean, like, even in the 60s and 70s when my parents were growing up, like, they had to plan for movies because they only played, like, one night out of a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So think about that. My grandpa Enrico had a album for, like, the album of the year vinyl record for each year my aunts and uncles and my dad was born. So, for example, my dad was born 1965, and his album was The Sound of Music.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? So, but that gives you an example. It wasn't like you could flip on the fucking tube and watch it whenever you wanted. Like, it was a real treat to sit down and see a full-length
watch a movie.
feature film, especially in color, because everything was still in black and white.
Even just like having a TV.
Yeah, so it gives you a little perspective. But the original Grimm's fairy tale tells it a lot differently. And I'll be touching mostly on the first edition, but the very first rendition of Snow White, or some overly ambitious translation, Snowdrop, air quotes, was published first in 1812. The same year, Sleeping Beauty was published, evidently, by Wilhelm and Jacob Grimm. Though there were 55 additions to the original story, the final edition was published in 1857. This is 127 years before Disney's release of the movie. Okay, so that also gives you context. These stories have been around forever. There's also been some suggestion that the story of Snow White was inspired by or originated from the real-life story of a countess named Margaret von Waldeck and her alleged lover, Philip II of Spain.
Oh.
This is around like 1554, so...
We can only imagine.
Okay. The countess was supposedly poisoned at a very young age, I believe due to her affair, as politics were more important than real love at the time. Another coincidence to the story is Margaret had a terrible relationship with her stepmother. Meanwhile, the town the countess grew up in, Wildingen, was also home to a number of copper mines, the workers of whom were young children who unfortunately suffered stunted growth due to malnutrition and poor working conditions.
So
and I don't mean to laugh, but it's just, why are these stories always at the expense and misfortune of children?
I know, right?
Allegedly, they were referred to as poor dwarfs. So if all these tales really are or were made to like scare kids, I think it probably did the job.
I think you're right, hitting the head on the head.
Yeah, but that's interesting. But essentially, Grimm's version begins with a lonely queen sitting by a windowsill sewing, watching a fresh snow fall to the ground. She pricks her finger on her needle, and 3 drops of her blood fall into this fresh fallen
Exactly
snow.
3 people. 3.
Exactly 3 drops, not 4. It's very important.
Not 2.
We don't know why it's important.
It's just 3.
It is. She then thinks to herself, shoot, quote, I wish I had a daughter who was as white as the snow, as red as my blood, and as black as this ebony windowsill. End quote.
Like, who thinks like that? You know, I do.
It's a totally normal thought.
Like, when I eat mac and cheese, I'm like, oh.
This is
So
what I
had a
want my kid to look
cheesy
like.
baby.
You know that stain of orange juice on the
I
counter?
know.
I really want my kid to look like this. Oh, but the lucky queen, she got her wish, and 6 years later, Snowdrop had grown into a gorgeous little girl, whom in which this queen had already grown extremely jealous of.
She wished for it, man.
Imagine being 6 years old, Elliot's age, and you already being like really fucking jealous of your kid.
Like your mom hates you.
Like, yo, that's really
They're like, yeah,
up.
I wanted you. I wished for you.
Your
but
mama
know
got
what?
issues.
Yeah, I'm done.
The queen's insecurities mounted when she asked her magic mirror one day, who is the fairest in all the land? And the mirror responds, quote, you, my queen, are fair, it's true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you, end quote. And that must have been a really solid, epic fucking burn.
Well, I mean, he said you were fair.
Because
the fairest.
the queen's next steps are questionable, and she had her now 7-year-old daughter kidnapped and taken to the woods to be executed.
By
But
a huntsman.
I learned something interesting. In the first editions, it wasn't a huntsman who kidnapped her. It was the queen herself. And she led Snow White into the forest where she planned to just abandon her there. But by the 17th...
That one wasn't published, though. Was it?
This is the first and, like, second edition. Okay. So, yes.
Okay.
So that's what an adaptation means. Like, they're always, like, adding something new and then republishing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't published.
So
okay.
by the 17th edition, the Grimm brothers made it so a huntsman would abduct her, take her into these dark woods, cut out her liver and lungs to bring them back to the queen so she could eat them with salt.
I just don't get why it's a kidney and lungs.
Because she's not salty enough, apparently. I don't know.
I don't think it's going with some salt on it.
That's how they used to cure meat, so
That makes sense.
I don't know if that's a correlation or not.
She's like, I'm making some jerky out of this shit.
Some say this happened. They wrote it that way because they were trying to maintain the folklore and affiliation with witchcraft and hint at the fact that this queen was somehow a part of that. But
She had a magic mirror.
That's just speculation, yeah. In the 18th and 19th editions of the tale, they altered the queen to being her stepmother rather than her biological mother because somehow they thought that'd be less traumatic.
Whatever.
I don't know. Anyway, fortunately, in all versions, this huntsman takes pity on the beautiful girl and tells her to run away and never be found. He brings back the liver and lungs of a slayed wild boar, and the queen, who wished for this daughter for seemingly no reason, goes on her happy way, feeling vindicated that she's once again the hottest tater tot on the block.
And put some salt on it, too.
We love it. Yeah, put that salt on there, girl. Snow White runs as far as she can, scared. She again finds a small house that some odd similarities to Goldilocks, I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
This small cottage had 7 of everything inside. Really tiny furniture, beds, cups, chairs, pickaxes, you name it. She helps herself to some wine and small bits of food from each place setting, not wanting to leave anything too disturbed.
She's like, I need just 7 beds.
Wanting to stay unnoticed, I suppose. But that's when she tries each of these 7 beds before finding the comfiest and falling into a deep sleep.
Probably Happy's bed.
Probably. And actually, that's a fun fact I forgot to jot down. There was a Broadway play between the first publication of the Grimm's version and then Disney's release of the movie. And it wasn't until the Broadway play in between the two that the dwarves earned names. Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah. I don't know why they were named what they were.
Yeah.
But 7 dwarfs come home from a long day at the mines only to find a beauty asleep in their house. Blown away by how beautiful she was, they decide to keep her. I don't know what that means, but I can only imagine. She wakes in the morning to find them, and
at least they let her sleep. They're like, just let her sleep.
Yeah, just
tonight.
leave her
She's tired.
alone. She's real tired. She explains how she'd found their house and why, and they too decided to take pity on her. Sure, girl. You can absolutely stay here if you cook and clean for us.
I know, right?
Yeah. It all seems like it's going to work out for a while. Okay. Again, we're not really sure on how much time passes, but we know it's a while.
I mean, man, they don't give us any time.
No, nothing is decisive. Anyways, until we go back to the evil queen. Snapshots. going back to Evil Queen. She learns that her daughter is still alive when she goes to ask, who's the fairest now, bitch? And imagine her surprise to hear it's Snow White still. Not only did she think that she was dead, but she thought she ate her organs, her fucking liver and lungs.
I guess it's Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
She wants her heart.
I don't know. This queen's infuriated, though.
She's bad.
Okay, you thought her cheese slid off her cracker before. You wait, okay? She decides
crumbled.
that she'll stop at nothing. Yeah, no kidding. Like into a million little pieces.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to stop at nothing to kill this. Remember, she's 7 years old. This 7-year-old girl. And the queen attempts to take Snow White's life again, but we learn she's not so good as an assassin,
No.
Even with her witchcraftery, because it takes 3 or more tries before she's successful. The first attempt was death by suffocation, or as the Grimm's brothers wrote, an elder woman who was selling lace in like a market offered to lace Snow White up properly, and I can only imagine that she's like talking about a corset. But for some reason, the princess accepts, and this old lady cinches it way too tight. Okay, imagine like Keira Knightley, first Princess or Pirates of the Caribbean, where she faints lack of oxygen.
It's too tight.
That is Snow White in this instance. She's dying. She couldn't breathe. But luckily, the dwarfs got there in the nick of time and unstitched the lace and saved her life. The second murder attempt, I guess the third, technically.
Yeah, right.
The queen disguised herself as a old lady again.
Her and her old ladiness.
Because apparently we think Snow White's pretty dense. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But she
Respect your
somehow
elders, kid.
is able to give Snow White a poison comb, like a hairbrush comb. And when she combed her coal black hair, she ends up fainting. But the poison wasn't strong enough to kill her. So the queen had to learn her lesson. And this time she does. I don't know. Third time's the charm, I guess. She's not an idiot, so she disguised herself as a farmer's wife this time, because surely Snow White wouldn't fall for a con by a third old lady.
She's like, I can't be an old lady again.
Surely enough, no.
My bad.
The queen succeeds by poisoning the poor, remember, 7-year-old, with a poison apple.
Her own daughter, mind you.
And she dies. Yes. In the original, it is her daughter that she labors. And in that day and age, when you labor a child and you live after it, like, usually it's like a fucking godsend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not in this case. I don't know why she wished for her.
Because she was sitting there bored.
Oh, and where is the fucking king in this situation? I always assumed that she poisoned him so she could, like, be the queen of this kingdom, but
Probably.
like, how did she get pregnant with Snow White in this rendition? I don't know.
Well, she wished for it, remember?
But is she? There's no mention of like fairies or anything like that. Did she brew her? Did she, like, I don't know.
She might have, because she came out with black coal hair, red lips. And
Maybe
white
she
skin.
like made her out of a spell. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. The 3 drops of snowdrop.
We might be onto something. Like the movie, the dwarfs are so heartbroken that they can't bury her. And they put her in a glass coffin in the mountains by their mines that they work at.
So they can check on her every day.
Yeah, they want to keep her body safe. Basically, it's like a crypt without the crypt.
But it, like,
We want to watch your body decay.
and it grows with her body. Because she grows.
We'll bury it. We'll put a bunch of flowers around your body to keep it like the fresh scent, you know?
Yeah, you would have to, because that shit would.
In this story, a prince gets lost in the woods and is forced to stay with the dwarfs, and take shelter with them in these mountains, where he then catches a glimpse of the beautiful dead princess. He then asks the dwarfs if he can take her back to his castle, where he promises to take real good care of her. Okay. real good care. For some reason, the dwarves trust him and agree. But on the trek back to this prince's kingdom, Snow White is jostled in the arm, like she's being carried by a servant.
Oh, I didn't hear this part.
Yeah, she's being carried by a servant and somehow gets jostled. And this somehow helps loosen a piece of the poison apple that had been lodged in her throat.
Yes.
And she coughs it up. And luckily, by coughing this apple up, she becomes conscious.
She's not dead.
Again. Like, no problem. She is like, what's up? I imagine it like bath salts, right? Or whatever like paramedics use to like wake people up when they overdose.
They're
like
what
the fuck are they called? It's some scent and it's like
jolts you.
Yeah, for real. That's how I imagine this fucking snowdrop. All right. I just find it so weird. Like that's like, wow. I coughed it up.
She's like,
it's not weird enough to have a bamboo shoot stuck under your fingernail.
Well, no.
and be asleep for 100 years. But we're gonna die from a poison apple, but we're not gonna swallow it all the way. We're not gonna digest it. It's just gonna stay lodged in our throat, and then no need for life support or life-saving measures. We're just going to cough it up however long after.
So it couldn't have been that long because
I'm a beautiful princess.
Well, the version that I heard is the prince took her coffin to the castle and he was like, did not want to leave her. Day and night, he was just like with her coffin. And one of the servants was pissed about carrying this coffin everywhere. So he like lifts her up out of it first and then he punches her in the back.
What?
Yeah, he's like, I'm like,
I like this version
how he punches
better.
her in the back
I
and
like
it dislodges the apple. And so then like the prince is like, you saved her. And he's like, yeah, but I can't tell you how.
I wanted you,
because he was mad about carrying this coffin everywhere. So I like how he just punches her in the back. Like it's just funny to me.
It's interesting how
that's the one that I heard.
Disney's version, it's a kiss. It's supposed to be very gentle and soft and sweet. And in the real life versions, it's like, we're going to jostle you awake.
We're going to punch you in the back.
Shaking baby syndrome. Are you there?
He's like, you're coming. You're fine. Wake up.
Who knew what the Heimlich was back then? You don't need that.
Or a baby missing your boob and sucking on your finger. Like, okay.
Or giving birth while you were unconscious with, like, thank God for fairies, okay?
I mean, I'd rather be unconscious.
Do you believe in magic? Well, you would want to back then, because otherwise your fate is pretty fucking bleak, man.
Yeah, you'd be done.
You're like, I'm going to get raped or married by the age of 11 or 12. I'm going to bear children and may live or die by the age of 13. And oh, by the way, my husband is a stinky, hypocritical, rapey,
could you imagine?
Nasty, dirty, smelly 45-year-old.
They didn't know any different.
Who's probably my uncle.
Ew.
Okay, so yeah, they needed magic and horror stories and witchcraft and lore. Otherwise, what the fuck were you living for? How would you pass the time?
Poor things.
With telephone storytelling. There you go. Yeah.
That is kind of like it's changed every passing year.
Yeah. So in short, Snow White, bitch said yes. She's like, yes, we're getting married. But unlike the movie, that is not it. I mean, she does have a happily ever after, but it is not. It does not just end there.
That's not the end.
Yeah. Excuse me, I have to burp.
I know. You could have heard mine come up earlier.
That was nice. Excuse me. I almost said bless me, like it was a sneeze.
Bless me.
But since Snow White was marrying into a royal family, the entire kingdom, all the like neighboring kingdoms and all the royals were invited.
It is a royal wedding. Get your asses here.
Yeah. So her mother, because she doesn't die in this version. Remember that. She's not electrocuted by lightning and falling off a cliff or anything. No. She's still alive, and she's sneering in her fucking castle, talking to herself in her fucking tattletale of a magic mirror.
Keep his mouth shut.
She's just pissed because woohoo, look, in both versions or all versions, Snow White wins. And so we applaud for her. But she's angry. So she gets invited to this wedding, and she actually decides to attend, which is wild to me. Would you go to someone that you tried to kill 4 times?
Probably not.
Like, for real?
Maybe she's trying for, like, you know,
she thinks
attempt
she's gonna
5.
kill her at the wedding.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. She's like, I'm going down, because it said in the story, she's like, she will kill her whether she dies herself too. So she's probably like, if I can't kill you, I'll just kill us both.
You are the motherfucking bane of my existence. I'ma take you out, bitch. Thank God she wasn't an actual assassin, because she would not have been productive whatsoever.
No, I don't think she probably would have got herself killed.
She's like, not especially if she was in like
killed.
John Wick, he would have slayed her in like.
He would have like flicked her in the face and she would have died.
He's like, I just back threw my hand up and slit your throat at the same time and chucked you out of a 5-story window. I'm whatever.
He's like, didn't even blink an eye.
Keanu Reeves, bitch. Yeah. So she actually shows up. Stupid on her part, because when she arrives, the king and queen force the evil queen, the mom, to wear iron shoes and stand over a bed of coals at their reception and dance until she died. And that, my friends, is what I love to call a left-hand turn, because it's epic.
And it's called karma.
Again with the instant karma.
With the
I love
capital
fairy
K.
tales for that reason. The only thing that I found was interesting about that story, and again gives you context to the times, is when she got married. Again, it didn't say whether any time had passed or not. By the time she gets married, she's still like 7 years old.
Yeah, is she 7 like this whole time?
So, aside from that, I think it's a great
8.
story. I like how vengeance comes back to the evil mother.
I bet
queen
she's
at the
like
end.
8.
Oh yeah, she's at the ripe age of 8.
They're like, you can get married.
She's
now.
at early. Her hips are like starting to rear, a little widen, a little bit, a little widen, and some good childbearing hips right there.
Widen up there.
That is a good flat-chested looking 8-year-old. Oh, so wrong. But I don't know. What did you think? I think it's interesting how out of the 2 that we talked about, or even the ones that we mentioned, there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, it's like they kept it like the storyline, but they like
the storyline is
own.
very similar. Both
Yeah.
women fall asleep, are woken up by
a man.
a kiss,
Well, not even like a man though. Like Talia was woken up by her kid. Her kid sucking on her finger because he couldn't find the boob apparently. And then she was jostled or punched in the back.
And in the Disney versions, they're both kissed awake.
Yeah.
By men, and immediately swept off their feet onto a horse or carriage and taken away to some far off kingdom.
Literally riding into the sunset.
Where they hopefully don't get raped. There's actually a Anne Rice published a version.
Oh, I have that book.
Yes, and it's about Sleeping Beauty, and that is the closest to smut books that I've ever read, and they are fabulous. I can't remember what they're called. Let me see if I can Google it really quick.
Sure you can.
Anne
Rice.
Fabulous author. Anne Rice rendition Sleeping Beauty.
Could have said like Anne Rice Sleeping Beauty.
Because it's a trilogy. It comes in 3 books. Yeah, it's these. And they are steamy, and I thoroughly enjoy them. You would like them. You would like them a lot.
I have it.
But the fucked up, her version is like Sleeping Beauty is found after like so many years of deep sleep. Her kingdom is basically fallen. Her family basically left her encapsulated in the kingdom like a tomb.
Yeah,
yep,
and
the same
Brothers
premise.
Grimm.
But the prince finds her, takes her back to the kingdom, and it's got similarities from the origin story too, because in Anne Rice's version, he doesn't kiss her, he rapes her too. And he makes her a sex slave.
Okay.
And takes her back to his kingdom, where she's not only his sex slave, the princess, but his mother, the queen.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so she's forced to do like all these crazy fucking things, and then I think it's in the second one where she's sold to peasants because they have to pay their dues and like work way beneath royalty. It's very good. So it's The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty. The second one's Beauty's Punishment, and then the third one's Beauty's Release. Highly recommend those. Very good. Very
good.
sexual. Sarah, I think my mom still has them. You should definitely read them. But
Okay.
yeah, you guys let us know what you thought of this
Jeez.
episode. You can email us at hardtalkswithbnh@gmail.com. Let us know if we left anything out.
Yeah,
If
hey.
you have anything to add, because I mean these.
What
things,
version have you heard?
Yeah, these fables are such deep rabbit holes. I mean, there's no way we could fit everything into one episode.
Like you said, like with Snow White, there was like how many between though? Like
55 adaptations of just the Grimm's version.
yeah, just that one, but like just theirs. Like
So
there's like ones before that too.
Yes. So, totally stoked to hear from you guys. We appreciate you listening as always. If you want to go on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts, it helps us so much, makes our day to hear from you. Helps us on the business end to continue to grow and connect with people just like you by leaving a 5-star rating and a written review. What am I missing? We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Hard Talks with B and H, and Twitter at Hard Talks with B1.
One.
Yeah.
Heyo.
Until next time, you guys, stay chipper. Don't let the bastards get you down.
Stay cool, people. It's pretty cold outside.
Yeah.
So stay warm.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Hard Talks.
Bye.
Bye.